today. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello, Anna. Thank you so much for having me here and featuring me in the little Zoom gallery.
I'm so excited. So this is one, thank you for saying that. I'm so excited that you said that, because even though we are in this electronic space, when I was tuning in this morning, and I meant to say it in our opening, sacred space opening, but I'll bring it up now. I had this sense, I had this like sensation and a feeling of us sitting in a room together and literally bilocating. So if you, I mean, many of you probably have heard about bilocating, right? Where your body is in one place, but your attention, your energy, your essence is somewhere else. And I saw all of our essence sitting in the room together. So even though we're like, you are in Arizona, and I know Arizona, right? Did I get it right? Are you in Arizona, Suzanne?
No, I'm in Florida.
Florida, sorry. Total opposite of an environment and climate. Even though we are so far apart, our essence is together in the same room, creating this magic together. So thank you for being here. So great. So you guys have your charts ready. If you haven't pulled it up yet, you have a minute while I introduce Suzanne to grab your chart. My tongue is twisting like crazy today. So Suzanne Gerber is a classically trained astrologer, teacher, energy and Reiki healer who uses the birth chart as a foundation for understanding the whole person. And I followed you, Suzanne, on social media. We came from the same environment, and I followed you on social media. I'm like, you know, I want to bring her wisdom to the salon, because you share with such clarity and such like laser focus, practical way, what's happening in the sky with the stars, in a way that we can apply to our lives, which is why I said you have to be part of the salon. So welcome.
Well, thank you. And of course, your Taurus appreciates what my Taurus ascendant and Virgo moon does, which is also first, it's got to be real. It's got to be something that we can apply to our lives. Mm-hmm. It isn't woo-woo esoteric language that I use to baffle other people. It's actually a way to bring this esoteric wisdom down into our everyday lives, because that's really the point of understanding how to work with astrology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And even in the world where we're moving into, right, where we're moving from this very tangible, practical world, more into this intuitive, energy-led, right, experience. Now more than ever, I think this knowledge is super important. So, right, I know you agree.
Of course. Now, Anna, could I interrupt and just do a little piece of housekeeping? We haven't discussed this ahead of time, but when I heard you mention, by way of introduction, that, you know, when I first looked at your chart, and when I was thinking about what I wanted to share today, I did look at your chart, and I'm wondering, can we share that with people, and can I use it to give a few examples? You'll have to give me the privileges as well as permission to share your chart. It won't be anything embarrassing, I promise.
I'm an open book. Okay, hold on. So I believe if I make you a co-host, you'll be able to share.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're a co-host. You have a lot of power now in this room. I relinquish it.
I'm not going to do it right yet. I'm going to wait until your chart has the right time to exemplify what I want to talk about.
Okay, great, awesome. So when you and I were preparing for this and just diving into what do we want to bring in, we have 30 minutes. We really want to bring an experience. We said over and through what could really make a difference, because astrology is so rich, right? And has so many layers. But you brought in the idea that if we look at North Node, and just at North Node, it could make a big difference for people who are really looking for the direction.
It's true. The North Node is the opposite of the South Node. And the South Node, maybe we'll share the screen now, because there's, it'll stop other computer. Let's make sure it doesn't mess up other people's sound when I do this.
I just disconnected. I was sharing. Yep, you're good.
Okay. And there's a few other things that I want to talk about beyond the North Node, because I really focused on the idea of leadership and raising our vibration through our leadership specifically. So I'd want to make sure we talk about that. But here is the North Node. Everybody has it in their chart. It looks like a horseshoe, and it has its opposite complement, which is the South Node. I think people can see that. It just looks like an inverted horseshoe, right? And they're always going to be 180 degrees apart, because what they represent are these moving points in the sky. It's a little technical. It's where the moon's orbit around the Earth intersects with the Earth's orbit around the sun, and as it tilts on its axis. Nobody thinks about this stuff, and you don't have to. All we want to do is understand that these are karmic indicators. The South Node is talking about kind of not necessarily accumulation of everything that's happened in every one of your past lives. That wouldn't be possible. That would like be putting every scene of every movie that's ever been made into one short reel. It can't happen. But what it does represent are certain things that were left unresolved from a previous life or lives, a theme or some specific things that we're here to work through, work on. They're not bad, they're not problems, but they are challenges, and they are things that we want to move away from, because the understanding is they hold us back. And it's our comfort zone. It's like a security blanket. And it's time in each lifetime to lay down that security blanket and step boldly into what's new and unexplored. And in your case, in everyone's case, it's the North Node, and this is your North Node. And it's in the sign of Sagittarius. And it's in the 5th house of creativity, but also love and a little bit of risk taking and being adventurous. The South Node is in Gemini, which is a very mental sign. It's something that can be very analytical and maybe overly dependent on other people's opinions, other people's validation. It's also in the 11th house that underscores that same concept of maybe you don't need to look around and say, hey guys, is this good? Am I doing it right? And it's conjunct Mercury, which rules the Gemini, which is really giving you this opportunity to step into the Sagittarian self-confidence, willingness to do things by yourself without, it doesn't mean you do it without other people. It just means you don't require permission. You don't need anyone else's validation. And that is a big part of what you're being invited, encouraged, inspired to do. Now, when we look at a chart, a chart shows us a blueprint. It shows us a lot of potentials. Nothing in this chart means it has to be a certain way. You're a Taurus. It doesn't mean you have to be rigid or resistant or,
bullheaded.
Bullheaded. You said it, not I. It doesn't mean that at all. Whatever is there is part of a whole spectrum of possibilities. And even when there is something that might not be our favorite trait, it holds the seed for the potential of its exact opposite, like the yin yang, right? The black and white, that each side contains the seed of the other. And that's the way I think astrology is the most useful, where we can see the highest expression. Also, when there is something that might feel a little shadowy, like a little hard to work with, we go, aha, if I have this challenge, it necessarily means that I have the opportunity to transcend it and move through that very frequency into the highest expression.
I love that. Absolutely. So great. So could we now walk through house by house, right? So I love it. Could you just remind us one more time, those of you guys who have charts with you, you're looking for the little horseshoe, right? Are they looking for the horseshoe?
It looks like this and it looks like this. But, one of the things that I want to point out with the leadership, Anna, because you're just such an amazing example of it. There's a few different things we look for when we want to talk about somebody standing in her power, having the means to manifest in the world, bring her beautiful vision to, to fruition in the world. And it's different for everybody. The way I would read for, let's say, a captain of industry, a CEO of a financial institution, who has an Ivy League education and just really is focused on making a lot of money and being very successful in leading a corporation into, a financial or a successful way of inventing new things is going to be very different than the way I'm going to read for, let's say, an artist or a light worker or a healer. They have different values. There's different qualities that they're going to use, and we want to look at that. Now, for everybody, we want to look at the Mars. And the Mars, everybody can look for this in their own chart because it's somewhere, I promise you. Even if you feel like a meek little wallflower, you have Mars somewhere in your chart, and learning how to work with your own Mars is going to give you more strength and more power to bring your vision into the world. Now, it's the classic sign for the masculine, okay? And it's the circle with the little arrow that comes up off it, the top. And you see, here's yours, Anna. And what I was, going to say when I thought about talking, like, well, we'd like to see Mars ideally at the top of the chart. And then I pulled up your chart, which I don't remember from our conversation. And here it is. I'm like, this is just perfect. Here you have Mars right at the top of your chart. It's almost at the exact minute of your midheaven point, which represents the pinnacle of your work in the world. So this is an absolutely beautiful placement. It's in Pisces. So this isn't the fierce competitor. This isn't the, trample the competition. It's in Pisces. So it's what? It's compassionate. It's kind. It's intuitive. It's emotional. It really wants to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. Everybody's being honored and listened to. And yet it's leading. It's one among many, but it's still taking its leadership role. So that's a beautiful thing. And everybody should look at their Mars. And if you're not familiar with the little symbols, the glyphs for the planets, you can look that up. You can Google these things. What does Mars and Pisces mean? We also, another planet that we want to look at is the Saturn. The Saturn is your discipline. It's your strength. It's your Mars wants to take action and it wants to use its passion to move forward. Saturn is like the regulator of that passion and that energy. And Saturn says, that might be too fast. That might be too big. That might be too much for now. Saturn is going to kind of govern the Mars's energy. And we would love to see the Saturn nicely positioned and nicely in a relationship with the Mars. And in your chart, they're both in water signs. And any two water signs that are close in degrees are making what we call a trine, a very supportive angle. So in addition to this creative North Node that's saying, stand in your power, don't look for validation from others, do your own thing, we see that you've got the strength, the power, the action to move forward, and the discipline, the caution, the strategy to do it in the right way, in the right timing. So that's absolutely beautiful. Not everybody is going to have it quite like this, but everybody is going to have other things that we look for that are going to be their superpower, that really will be what they want to lean into, because that makes them unique. We're not cookie cutters. We're not all trying to do the same work in the world. So this is, these are two of the things that we want to look for. And one more thing that I want to bring in is the sun. And that looks like the target, the bullseye, and that represents the sun. And everybody has that. It's, you know, when you know you're a Taurus, if you're an Aries, the sun is in that sign. And the sun is our vitality. And it's our ego, but well, it can be a lower expression of ego, you know, like pride or thinking the world revolves around you. And it can also be the highest expression of that, which is, I'm going to do me, and I'm going to inspire you and support you and generously help you attain your highest self-expression. And yours is in Taurus, and it makes a beautiful, perfect, it's a smaller positive angle called the sextile, but it's all three of these planets are just so neatly aligned that it's your vision, your idea of what your work is to do with groups of people, and how do you use your power to put it out in the world? How do you structure it and plan it? And this is terrific. And this
Thank
is
you.
now, I do want to say, one of the things people go, okay, so that's just looking at a map. How can it help me? Let's say I have something challenging. Well, you do have something a little challenging, and I'm going to put you a little bit in the hot seat here.
Bring it. Bring it, Suzanne.
So your Mars is in Pisces, and your career is Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Neptune. So it's really important to look at Mars's relationship to Neptune, which is the modern ruler of Pisces. And here's your Neptune. It's really close to that north node of yours. And it's actually in a sign, it's in Sagittarius, which is challenging to that Mars. And so it's in your house of work and service. Of course, this is what you want to do. You're really here to be a light worker, to bring this very enlightened, sacred service to other people. But they're at odds with each other. And we see this, and we would say, does she sometimes get a little blown off course? Can she lose her focus? Can she become unrealistic or not feel that confidence, that drive that Mars has? Can you doubt it? Can you feel not strong enough? And a whole bunch of qualities like that. And that's what we look at. And so there's always, things that we can do around it. But let me ask you, does some of those things come up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a conversation that the more I step into my power, the more I step into the lights, the more I step into the spotlight, the more I question. Yeah. The more the exact questions you just brought up, Suzanne. Yeah. So great. Yeah.
So when we see that, like, how do we raise our vibration through it? Well, we say, okay, this might be, and this kind of goes along with that south node, right? Of looking for other people. Hey, you guys, did I do that well? What do you think? How should what would you do? And just immediately saying, wait. I'm supposed to move into that north node of Sagittarius. I know my truth. I know what's right for me. I don't need to do what's right for them because, well, that's right for them. and not even necessarily. And so we say, how can I use this challenging angle as a reminder that I don't have to fall into it? I have the, that seed of the opposite potential of that opposite energy to stand in my power, to not have doubt, to say, well, Neptune can make me a little dreamy. It can make me a little out of focus. So maybe I'll use that out of focus imagination to do my visioning work. But I won't try to, run a budget or, come up with something very Taurian and practical. Maybe I'll use that for the more creative stuff. Think about what my set looks like. Who do I want to talk to? Am I going to have music in the background? The more creative aspects of it. And then you say, okay, Neptune, you're done. And now we're going to give the work to Saturn. And we almost see it like a little team. But it's all inside of us. And we get to delegate the responsibilities, knowing that team member might not be so good at this. So we bring that back and we give it to somebody else. And this is what we do. We look at it. We don't judge ourselves. We don't shame ourselves. We don't say, I have a problem. We say, okay, here's an opportunity. And then we try to work with it from there. And I will say that it is kind of hard to do this on our own. This is why we want a coach. We want a teacher. We want an astrologer. We want a healer. We want to work with somebody else who we trust, who has our absolute highest interests at heart
Mhm.
and can support us in taking our steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's detached from the outcome, right? Detached from the outcome is a huge part too. I love it, Suzanne. So this is so great. You guys, can you imagine having that kind of an insight into, and even if you don't grasp all of it at once, even if you have like sessions with Suzanne and she looks at your card, at your chart and just gives you an inkling, just the pieces, it's so huge. So can we, I mean, I think it's amazing. And even the way, I'm going to say this too, even the way you just brought in the whole idea of it's a team. So getting familiar with who is on your team and how to use, right? How to use different players. So can we now serve everybody who is here and just go through each house, just a word or two about each house. So if you have your chart with you, is it the north node they're looking for? North node, right? So it's the horseshoe. What is the most important?
You're talking to a Libra here. I'm not going to say something's more important than the other. But the thing to think about with the nodes is they represent the shadow and where we want to move out of, where we don't want to let ourselves rest, where we want to catch ourselves in our blind spot. Okay. And then we want to immediately see the seed of the opposite. So what I would suggest people do, probably the best way to work with it, is find we call it the nodal axis.
Okay.
Axis, the 180-degree angle that they're creating. And what we want to do is wherever the south node is, we're going to think of that as where we might get. Now, the south node, and in our past lives, of course, we've done wonderful things. We've been great parents, we've supported other people, maybe we've been artists or pioneers in some way. Great. Yeah. But that's not why we work with the south node. The thing that I've started to say lately is it's like going to the dentist. You don't go to the dentist for them to say, oh, you have such a great smile. You go to the dentist because you want them to get the things that you can't get. Yeah. It's your blind spot, right? Yep. It's where you need a little more help. And so think of the south node. Of course, you've done great things, but that's not the point. Let's look at where we might still be stuck, because that's as helpful as what it is that we have to grow into. Then, so everybody's gonna want to listen to two of the houses. Got it. Your north node might come up first, as I go through the houses from the first house, and the houses move counterclockwise. So we're going to go through in this direction. Okay. And it starts here. If we use a clock face to orient us, 9 o'clock is your ascendant. It's your first house. It's your rising sign. There's a lot of things you can jump into in a chart, but this is in traditional astrology, the kind I work with. This is the main entrance. This is you. This is the you that we see. We see you before we get to know your inner workings, right? Yeah. So this is the cover of your book. It's only when you open the book and start to read it that you really get a sense of, oh, it's a little more complicated, isn't it? So we start here. And then this is the first house as we go down and around and up, okay? So the first house, let's say your south node is in the first house. And this is super shorthand. Okay? Yes,
I know. Yeah, you guys, this is, we're working with limited time.
Psychology. The first house, if this is your south node, this could be over dependence on yourself, too much independence, forgetting that other people have very strong opinions and needs and desires, okay? It's just in a past, you might have been a little selfish. If it's the north node, the right side up horseshoe there, it means the exact opposite. Maybe you didn't take care of yourself. You didn't put your needs first. You took care of your partner. You took care of other people. And this is a lifetime where the work is not being selfish or arrogant or anything like that, but remembering that you are very important. The old put your own oxygen mask on first. That's the lesson of the first house. Here's the second house. The South node in the second house is going to talk about maybe over-reliance on money or possessions or things that make you feel secure. But if you lose them in a flood or a fire, they don't make you feel secure, do they?
Mm.
The North node here suggests maybe you never really took money seriously, or you didn't stabilize for yourself or your family, or you're still working on self-worth, because this is ultimately about your values. Here's your third house. The South node, the shadow of it would be another way to say it, is maybe you believe your own opinions. You put your own ideas first. You're not focusing on the greater good. The North node here is you do want to acquire your own information. You do want to develop your own way of thinking, your own speech, your own voice, not being dependent on a church, a religion, a philosophical system. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Here in the fourth house, the shadow is maybe too dependent on your home and family, too insular, not going out in the world, being afraid to take risks, maybe being emotionally manipulative. And again, the signs are going to be very, very influential. The North node here is maybe don't be so business oriented. Don't be a workaholic. Don't forget the most valuable asset you have, your family, right? And who you come from and your lineage and your tribe.
Beautiful.
Moving along, the fifth house, the shadow of it is maybe a little too much self-love, too much self-importance, forgetting that there is a greater good and democratic principles. And then the opposite is not just going along with the crowd. And, you know, like what we were talking about with you, Anna, right? It's about your ideas, your creativity, standing on your own feet and feeling confident, you know, and feeling, yeah, your opinions are as valid as anybody's. Sixth house shadow can be a worrier. It can have hypochondria. It can be overly servile and afraid to find its own way in the world. The North node here is the exact opposite. Find the beauty in service. It doesn't mean that you're giving yourself away. It's quite the opposite. It's through your sacred service that you really perform a very, very special act in the world. But we have to do it lovingly, because if we do it with resentment, we lose all the brownie points. Seventh house, that's the opposite of the first house. So the shadow of it is too much dependent on other people, often a partner, but any committed partnership. It could be a business partnership. Maybe you got screwed in a business partnership in another life. The North node there means there is joy and beauty and fabulous fulfillment to be found in blending your energies with somebody else, whether it's for, you know, a romantic love relationship or a business or a creative partnership. The eighth house is a little tricky because it means a few different things. It's where we merge. It's the Scorpio house. So we all know that's kind of energy, right? It's merging, pooling our resources. It's also surrendering into something higher, the divine. So the South node, the shadow, is maybe an obsession with sexuality or merging with other people and not keeping enough for your own family. It's also metaphysical, and it could be getting lost. It could be getting caught up in a cult, giving your power away to a charismatic leader. The North node, the aspiration here is to find your connection to the divine. Direct connection with divine or through other people. Usually this is kind of a sexual tantric nature, where we realize that we can have like a little mini version of communion with the divine through a beloved partner. And many people who have a South node there might have been afraid of intimacy, and this is the invitation to go for it.
Beautiful.
The ninth house, the shadow of it is very independent, not taking responsibility seriously, just going off and doing your own thing and maybe saying, well, that's just how I am. But that doesn't fly. The highest aspirational qualities of the ninth house have to do with truth and fairness and justice, and coming up with systems that don't just work for you, not just for other rich people or other people of your color or your faith, but for everybody. The 10th house, which is the opposite of the 4th, if your south node is there, it does seem to suggest maybe you were an alcoholic, sort of like having the north node in the 4th, which of course you would have. So the south node, the shadow of the 10th house, is slavish devotion to your reputation or your status or success without realizing there's an emotional component. The highest, having the north node there, it's a beautiful calling. It's somebody who really is meant to do their work in the world publicly and not be embarrassed of it, not be held back. Maybe there's a family that didn't support you. It's about moving into that anyway, because you're meant to share something really meaningful with the world. The 11th house, the shadow, is too much dependent on groupthink, peer pressure, being part of an organization, fitting in, being popular. Sorry. And its opposite, as you know, is using your own love and your power and your creativity to go, I can have friends, I can be part of groups, but I don't need that to feel okay about myself. And the 12th house is another one of those very dark and mysterious places because it's very mystical. And it's really about the dissolution of the ego. And in this context, by ego, I mean a sense of separation from everything. So a south node there, which I have, and I'm been working with this for a long time, is not just going into isolation, because it's your Pisces house. It's where we go into our meditation cave, where we hide out. It isn't just doing that. It's coming out into the world and doing our service for other people. The north node there is stop chasing the material. Stop thinking about what's out here. FOMO can be your worst enemy. This is about finding your own truth, your own connection to the divine, and trusting your own intuition.
Amazing, Suzanne. This was so great. I hope that you guys looked at your charts and even just a tiny little tidbit. And I know, Suzanne, I asked you to actually give us a tidbit, which is a tiny sliver. And I know that it comes along with, like you shared at the beginning with my chart. And I love the way you set it up too. So points to you, brownie points to you for setting it up that way. That there is so much more in the chart than just the north node and the south node, yet you are able to serve us right now, everybody, because I wanted to make sure that everybody is involved in the experience, that you were able to serve every single person. So I hope you had your charts handy and you pulled it out and you were able to get something out of it. So amazing. And like you said, it's the information that serves us to see if we are stopped, what is it that's working underneath? What is that? I love it because it helps us focus instead of asking, different questions, go in different directions. We can just focus and ask a very specific question that's pertaining to something that's in a chart and get a clear answer. It's amazing. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for serving us so generously.
It's just always so much fun to talk about astrology. Can I comment on one person's comment? So Christoph mentioned his north node at 22 Pisces in the 4th house. Now, right now, Neptune is on that north node. And this is your year of really getting sensitized, really getting woken up to family stuff. It could be your immediate family. It could be your family of origin. It could be your lineage. There's some very, very deep soul healing that you're right smack in the middle of. And I think you probably know this if you're on this call, Christoph. When we do our healing work, we actually can heal many generations back, and we set up a vibration for a new kind of healing that comes in for those that follow us, even if we don't have our own biological children, for everybody whose lives we do touch. And of course, if we have children, for that whole line. So what an amazing time for you.
Yeah, amazing. I actually know Christoph, so it sounds very, it resonates for me from what I know of him. Really amazing. So thank you for answering that question. Really great. And I know you have a gift for us. So You guys know, yeah, you guys know there is a speaker page because we've been introducing it. There is a beautiful face of Suzanne and a golden button to claim her gift. Could you just quickly tell us what they can expect?
Well, what we just did very quickly, that little jog around
Yeah,
the houses, we're going to go through it in a lot more detail about how to find. And again, yeah, we're going to get a little granular about each of the houses and the nodes, but really the point is to work with that shadow, to embrace it, and to say, this is my pathway to my highest aspiration. Because a lot of times, some people know exactly what they want to do, what their path is, and what the way forward is. But a lot of people, and this is why a lot of people, you know, wind up getting a reading with me, is they're not really sure what it is. Or it's changed, because it can change, because we're not the same person at 50 that we were at 13.
At 20, yeah,
at any two ages. And it's about understanding that the shadow is really a friend. And it's, if we don't pay attention to it, if we try to pretend, oh, you know, I'm the person who doesn't have a shadow, then it's going to get bigger and more powerful, and it's going to undermine us, and we're not going to be able to move forward. We need to embrace it, and we need to learn how to dance with it. That's when we can really grow. And so that's what the gift is. It's a journey through all of the houses, and I think all the signs. And what's really cool is you can bring your chart, you can bring your partner's chart, you can bring some other people. I always caution people, when you look at your children's chart, keep in mind that these things are not fixed in stone. It's like Googling symptoms. You know, you're going to see worst case scenario. That doesn't mean that's true. Okay, so really keep a big open heart.
I love it. So great. So go deeper with this information. If you haven't played with your chart before, I know I used to always read horoscopes, and that's how far my knowledge went. And I dove deeper. I have no desire to be as knowledgeable as you, which is why I bring you to the salon with all your beautiful expertise and your passion, because I know it works. And I know it's something that we get to have access to as we keep leading our businesses and lives forward. So thank you so much for being here, Suzanne. Thank you for your wisdom and your passion.
Here for listening.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And you guys make sure you go to the speakers page, find Suzanne and the golden button next to her beautiful picture, claim your free gift, and have some fun with this. It really could be, I mean, for me, it's like every single piece of information that confirms that I'm on the right track or gives me access to what stops me, I'll take it. So great. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
And if people have questions, once they're on my website, they can navigate over to the contact me form and shoot me an email.
Yeah, so amazing, generous. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So great.